the director of the Indian Museum, my good old friend Dr. Gautam Sengupta, the former Director General of the Archaeological Survey of India, Dr. Chavan, who is the Regional Director of the Archaeological Survey of India, my friends. There are many students, in fact, in Kolkata, my own students, the students from the department, and ladies and gentlemen. First, I would like to thank Dr. Chaudhary, also my student Dr. Shen, for inviting me here and requesting me to speak about my latest research on the archaeogenetic aspect and how this research has implication impact on the Indian history. Now, before I start, let me clear some of the doubts that have been raised, in fact, recently in the media. First doubt was that this research is politically oriented. Now let me make it clear, in fact, the research was initiated in 2006 itself. And in 2008 and 9, when I excavated the largest Harappan cemetery at Farmana, one of my aims was to understand the Harappan population. Who are the Harappan people and their relationship with the contemporary population, and also the relation with the modern population of this region. And we knew that unless we have DNA, we will not be satisfactory and scientifically answer these questions. There are a number of hypotheses put forth by scholars, but most of them are based on mostly inference about who are the early people and the composition of the Harappan population. So I wanted to really generate this data. Suppose we had found DNA impact in 2008-9 itself, and we had published this in 2011-12, the results would have been the same. I would have published the same results, because when it is published in international journal like Science and Shale, there is no doubt for any authenticity of the data. And therefore, when we initiated this project, initially we thought that maybe the Indian scholars will work on that because we are competent. We have some good genetic scientists in the country. And I thought that perhaps we can generate this data and put forth in the public domain. But then I realized that there are some good, very well-known genetic scientists outside country, and it is these people who could have raised the doubt about our research, about maybe the collection of the data, the interpretation part, analysis part. They would have certainly raised some doubts. And then I thought, why not to involve these scholars also? And once we have the results from all of them, then it can be published. And that is what we did, in fact. I'm proud to say that the genetic scientists in India, they have really done excellent work at par with any international scientist in the world. And whatever results were obtained by the Indian scientists, they were simply cross-checked and authenticated by scholars from outside. One of the most celebrated archaeogenetic scientists, in fact, in the world is David Rigg, and he was one of the very active partner, in fact, in this research. Let me tell you that the lab that he has established perhaps the best lab in fact in the world for the ancient DNA studies. This lab is specifically established for studying the Harappan population. And you can imagine in fact why people from all over the world are so interested in understanding the Harappan ancestry, Harappan genealogy. And the amount that we have spent for the DNA studies crosses around 5 crores. So you can imagine this how much expensive this research is. Perhaps the most research expensive research in the country. And we have at least 2 dozen scientists from all over the world who are part of this research. So there is no doubt about the authenticity of the data that has been generated. And DNA has no, there is no cross-checking, of course. That is the final word when it comes to the understanding about the ancestry of the people. Secondly, when it is published in fact in journals like Science and Cell, Cell is the most important scientific journal in the world. And very few Indians have managed to publish, Indian scientists have managed to publish in this. It has got 40 impact factor, one of the highest in the world. And the article that is submitted is thoroughly reviewed. In fact, there are 2 stages. First stage is whether the article is good for the publication. So once it passes through that stage, then it is circulated to the peer reviewers. And in our case, there were 3 reviewers. We don't know the names, of course. One was the genetic scientist, one was archaeologist, and one was anthropologist. And in the history of the science journal, Shell journal, they generally take this maybe 1 year or 1.5 years for the review of the paper. But this paper was reviewed within a week. This is the history in fact that the Shell publisher was telling me. So from this you can imagine how important the research is. And what is the implication of this research on the Indian history? Because ultimately we have to speak about the implication of the history of this research. Secondly, there are a number of media people who were after me for last 3-4 years, and every time I say that maybe next year we'll publish. So they were again doubting that I am postponing the publication of this mainly because there is something that I am not able to tell them, some hidden agenda. But that is not the case. Let me tell you that it took a lot of time for us to extract DNA from the skeletal remains. We scanned nearly 60 skeletal remains, all from the site of Rakigadi. And finally, we were able to get signature from 5 skeletal remains. But the remains, the signature from 4 skeletal remains were so big that we were not really able to make any conclusion from that. And we were about to leave this particular effort. We thought that these conditions are not conducive for the preservation of the DNA. And that is true, of course. And we thought that we will not be able to do this research further. But like Tutankhamun's tomb, it was discovered in fact on the last day. Similarly, the DNA from one lady in fact was detected on the last day of our efforts, and that turned the entire part of our research, and that has given a very significant data. So even if we have data from one skeletal remain, there is also criticism that how much we can make inference on the basis of only one skeletal remain, because we have very limited data. But this has given us the most important evidence about the ancestry of the South Asian people. And that ancestry is so distinct that we can use that for understanding the history of the population in this part of the world. Secondly, this data also is revealed that for past 12,000 years, the ancestry has not changed at all. So naturally, it put to the rest the thesis like the Aryan migration or Aryan invasion. Suppose the Aryan migration had happened, sometimes as scholars say that maybe after 2000 BC, then they could have replaced the population. They could have either killed the people or they must have pushed them back, maybe to South India, and they could have established a new ancestry in South Asia, which is not found. The continuity itself indicates that the population was not dislodged at any stage. So that confirms that we were not really attacked. But at the same time, let me also reveal that right from the beginning of the settled life, people were in touch with people from outside South Asia for the trade purpose. And right from the beginning, there was a movement. I will be showing in fact this particular data to you also. There was a movement of the people from different regions. So that is also important, that there is some mixing happening right from the beginning. The degree varies in fact from time to time. Sometimes maybe it is more, sometimes it is less. But it was never more than 20%. So that is also very important, that 20%, that means it is just a mixing at some stage and not replacing the population. Thirdly, all of us, the South Asians, from the one skeletal remains, one genetic remains that we have, it is quite clear that all of us carry the Harappan gene. 60% and more Harappan gene is present in all of us. No matter what religion we follow, what caste we follow, what occupation we follow, all of us carry the Harappan genes, right from Andaman Nicobar till Kashmir, end of Kashmir, and from Afghanistan to Bengal, all of us have the Harappan gene. So this is also important. This also indicates the continuity. So this is the background just I wanted to tell you before I start with the actual presentation of my lecture. But as I said that that the data that we have generated is very small. We need more data, of course, and also this is a good beginning in fact of a new research, new methodology that I will be talking to you. New methodology of the collection of data, new methodology of the analysis of data, and how ultimately this new methodology or new research is going to help us in correcting the history of the country. I never use the word changing the history of the country, but correcting the history of the world, of the country. We all know that maybe we read, when it comes to the beginning of settled life, there are two main two streams. One, some say that people came from outside, maybe from West Asia or from Central Asia, and these are the people who began the settled way of life, maybe the domestication of plant and animal, village life and city life. And there are some scholars who believe that it is all indigenous development. Both the groups, in fact, had made the hypothesis only on the basis of inference. No strong evidence was used. But today we have three important evidences about which I am going to speak. One is the genetic evidence that I spoke to you. Secondly, now we have reanalyzed and also regenerated a lot of new data to understand the beginning of settled life here and the cultural process from the beginning of settled life to the beginning of the Harappan culture, and from the beginning of Harappan culture to the development of the Harappan civilization, that is around 2500 BC. So we have studied this particular cultural process in great detail. We have very strong archaeological data in that respect. And thirdly, recently, in fact, on the 1st October 2019, one more paper was published in collaboration with the Korean scientist. It was published in Anatomical Science International, a journal which is published from America. And this journal has a paper in which we have reconstructed the facial feature of the Harappan people, how exactly the Harappan people look like. I'm going to show that also. That is also a new research. And you will be surprised to know that from the Harappans till the modern time, the anatomy of the people is exactly same. From this research also, it is quite clear that there is no terms like Aryan and Dravidian in the Indian subcontinent. They were created maybe later, in fact, maybe by the British scholars, and the Indians maybe continued that term, because this DNA clearly indicates, maybe a uniform DNA, in fact, all, in the entire population. So these are some of the implications that, are very important. Can I have next, please? Now you'll see maybe the gist of our paper, in fact, published in Science. And it is very important to understand the ancestry of the people from different parts of the world, especially from South Asia and Southeast Asia. In fact, we made the efforts. By the way, the data, in fact, DNA data of Rakhigarhi is not included in Science paper. But this also clearly, indicates that the steppe population, or the population from Iran, the early Iranian farming population, the Neolithic population, they have not really contributed to the development of ancestry in South Asia. That is clear from that particular paper also, and also from the paper, the subsequent paper that we published in Shell, that is on Rakhigarhi. Second, important, revelation, in fact, from this research. We always thought that people first came from outside. Like Aryans, it is believed that came from outside, from Central Asia, or from maybe Middle East. And then, they came here and maybe, they established a new culture. But the evidence that we have, in fact, is contrary. Can I have next, please? Contrary in a sense that it is revealed that the Harappans, in fact, first began to move outside, out of India theory, is now getting a very strong base now, the scientific base. Now what we did, in fact, we had the DNA data from this site of Rakhigarhi, and we compared that with the population, contemporary population from Iran. There is a site called Shari Sokta, which has got a number of skeletal remains. We did the analysis of those skeletal remains also, DNA analysis. And also, in fact, nearly 8 skeletal remains were analyzed from Shari Sokta. And similarly, we did the analysis of the population from Turkmenistan, from Central Asia, from the site of Gonur. Now both the sites, in fact, Gonur and Shari Sokta, both of them, they are contemporary with the Harappan population, Harappan culture. Both of them had some Harappan elements in the form of Harappan seals and Harappan potsherds. And it was believed that, that first these people came here, and then, because of their movement, in fact, this type of maybe action happened. But these people never came first to Indian subcontinent. It is the Harappans, in fact, who went to that part first. Because in Gonur and also in Shari Sukta, we are getting the Harappan gene present in the population there. We do not have any iota of the gene from either from Iran or from Gonur impact in the skeletal remains of the Harappans. So that clearly indicates that Harappan people first began to go out, and there is maybe later reciprocal movement happening later. We are using the word movement, not the migration. Migration means maybe the migration of a large number of flocks in one go. That never happened in fact. There was always movement happening, and this movement was mainly because of the trade activities during the maybe 3rd million BC or middle of the 3rd million BC. So out of India's trade, this momentum is getting very strong. Now this is leading us to believe, particularly this is my hypothesis, that the Indo-European language, on the basis of which the entire Aryan migration or invasion theory was based. Particularly the European scholars thought that the Aryans came here maybe after 2000 BC, and they brought the Indo-European language with them here, and we learned from them. These are the people who came here and they established the Rigvedic culture here, and most of the sciences and technologies were developed by these people, they brought from outside. But now, because of this particular evidence, that we have no evidence about any incoming population from outside during Harappan times. Harappans are going outside. So it is quite likely that the Harappans developed the Indo-European language, because as far as the Indo-European language is concerned, we have basic issues like where and when this language was originated. We do not know really. Harappans were so advanced and who had international trade contacts, they needed language, they needed script. And I'm sure that I'm coming to that particular, I'm working on this particular hypothesis. It is quite likely that the Harappans introduced early form of Sanskrit, which is constituted the base of most of the Indo-European languages. And then, along with the, people impact, the culture, the language began to spread. That is a possibility now, which is now based on this new research. So we are working on that particular aspect. And from the Rakigadi, it is quite clear that 12,000 years ago, even though it is one skeleton remain, see the contribution made by this one lady, in fact, Harappan lady, to the understanding of our early